Grand Rising, Grand Rising.
Grand Rising.
How you doing this rising?
Doing good, doing good. How about yourself?
All right, all right. Well, I can't complain, can't complain. Still breathing.
That's a good start. Without that, pretty much nothing else is possible.
That was it. Yep, yep.
Gotta get my screen pulled up so I can see the chat. Give me a second.
Pulling up the first story for this ride. Mm-hmm. I'm pulling this up. Giving everybody a second to get in the room. All right, let's pull this up. Okay, here we go. Got everything set. First story that's rising comes from the Insider. It says there's even more evidence that taking supplements is a waste of money and could be harmful to your health. Updated 9 hours ago. It states that supplements offer no apparent benefit for already healthy people. Point one, it says nutritional supplements have no added health benefits for people who are already in good health, according to a new study. Researchers also found that people in the study who took vitamin D but did not have a vitamin D deficiency had a greater risk of cancer and death. Also states education and lifestyle factors play more of a role in health than supplements, according to study co-author MD. Grand Rising, no sellout. Says despite the sheer number of vitamins and health supplements on the market today, little proof exists that these pills and powders have healthy benefits for the general population. Some research even suggests supplements can actually harm your health. A new study offers even more evidence that vitamin supplements aren't helpful and could even create risk for otherwise healthy people. According to the study published in the Annals of Internal Medicine, dietary supplements do not help people live longer or offer any other notable health benefits. Researchers looked at a variety of supplements, including vitamin A, vitamin K, and zinc, and found that they offer no healthy benefits but also no health risk. Vitamin D was a different story. Researchers found that people in the study who took 10 micrograms of vitamin D supplements daily but had no pre-existing vitamin D deficiencies increased their overall risk for cancer and death. The potential harm of vitamin D supplement use among individuals without vitamin D deficiency need to be further evaluated, said Fang Zhang, MD, a co-author of the study. The researchers also found that excess calcium intake from supplements increase a person's risk of cancer, but excess intake from foods did not increase cancer risk. Although the researchers were unable to explain why excess calcium created a heightened cancer, they believe it could be related to increased hormone production from calcium. When initially observing studied subjects, the researchers believed that all the supplements they looked at, including multivitamins and single nutrition supplements, lowered general risk of death. But after adjusting for factors including education level and lifestyle, think smoking, physical activity, and your activity level and alcohol consumption, the researchers found that supplements apparently benefits disappeared. They also noticed that the more vitamin D a person consumed without needing it, the higher their risk for adverse effects. It states nutritions consumed through foods are better than nutritions from supplements. The researchers found that nutritions like vitamin K, magnesium, zinc, and copper did offer health benefits to the studied subjects, but only when they were consumed in the form of food, not supplements. This suggests that for most people, a balanced and nutrition-dense diet is all that is needed to stay healthy. The study, which looked at nearly 31,000 people over the age of 20, did have some caveats. The researchers relied on participants' self-reported supplement use. So if a study subject under or over-reported their use, it could have skewed the results, Zhang said. Still, Zhang, one thing that is clear, that dietary supplement use is not a substitute for a healthy, balanced diet. Previous research has also found supplements offer new health benefits. Even worse, one study found that vitamins and herbal remedies increase emergency room visits due to the supplement side effects like chest pain and heart. Supplements are regulated by the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. So the companies that create these products can add ingredients to their pills without telling consumers. Some supplements don't even have a recommended dosage. Consumers should expect nothing from supplements because we don't have any clear evidence that they're beneficial, and that they should be leery that they could be putting themselves at risk. S. Brian Austin, a professor of behavioral science at the Harvard THC Chain School of Public Health, told the Business Insider, "Whether it's on the bottle or not, there can be ingredients in there that can harm you." And that was the end of that health report from this morning. Any feedback on that from the panel?
I can start with WoW because that I used to be uh, one that used to take a lot of supplements when I was younger, and at least I felt like I was getting some benefits. So that's some good information. It's a head scratcher, for lack of a better term. I'm gonna go meet on that.
I've been a personal trainer for 8 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm the one person in the gym that has never recommended any supplements for anybody. Get it through your diet. Stop playing.
All right. And before we go a little further, Grand Rising, Larice Miller, Brittany Davis, to everybody checking in right now. Yeah, the same way. I'm like, wow. Thinking how many years they've been making you take vitamins even from a child. Ugh.
Just think about it. All the stuff that they sell in GNC, does any doctors recommend any of that stuff, or does it say not these views, or this is not a cure-all? See your doctor. All this stuff. Nobody recommends the stuff at GNC or Vitamin Shop or any of these health food stores. None of the doctors are telling you to go in those stores at all. So they're obviously going to give you something even worse for you, but they're not recommending that you go supplement with a pre-workout or a post-workout or extra protein. Get your man, eat food. Stop playing. Like everybody acting like they ain't grown no more. They got to do this and do. Let me get this shortcut real quick to my vitamins. Eat your food.
I feel you because I'm like, wow.
Okay. Okay. Sounds like that article struck a nerve with no sellout. I'm just saying.
Nah, that's you can ask my brother too. He in high school did not do supplements because he saw me not take supplements and do some things off of supplements that people were doing on supplements. So it's just not necessary. It's never been necessary. It just takes a little bit of research, and don't go word of mouth with, oh yeah, I took this and I did. Everybody's body is different anyway. And like I said, if your doctor is not recommending you go in GNC and buy all this stuff, why are you doing it? You're doing it based on somebody else's vision or somebody else's marketability, pretty much. Because that's all it is. I mean, it even says on every bottle, it's not a cure-all. This is not a cure. This is, see your physician. It doesn't tell you to do this at all. Like, it doesn't
most of them
recommend.
tell
The
you.
bottle don't even recommend it.
Yeah, most of the bottles will tell you not to be used to diagnose or to treat anything. So what are you taking it for? It tells you not FDA approved for this and that.
All of it.
But in big letters, take this, healthy, small
Yep.
writing. No, it won't.
Garcinia cambogia or whatever it's called. Where everybody fell for that trap, thinking I take this pill, it's gonna eat my fat away. Okay. All right.
It's in the way, all right.
A fruit and brain cells.
Yes. So that's a good one to start on because, a lot of risings people get up, run out the house because of these busy schedules, try to take a supplement instead of taking the time out to eat right.
Mm-hmm.
Dangerous,
very dangerous. Actually, they're telling you in this article that it's dangerous. It could lead to death.
Yeah.
Taking these extra supplements and vitamins and all this stuff that your body has to process anyway and get rid of because, I mean, come on now. Come on, son.
Especially if you don't even know what it is that you're taking. They don't have to tell you what's in it.
Nope. And if they do tell you what's in it, you can't pronounce the words, nor feel the need to look it up because you're trying to fast track anyway. So why would you go research any of that stuff?
Yeah.
It's safe. Clearly, the FDA didn't approve it, so it's safe, right?
Yeah. That's always where they got like the two little crosses where they be like, oh, it means FDA didn't approve. Then you look, where everything is say the benefit's supposed to be, but it got the two crosses. So like, hold on. You trying to say it's going to make me feel better. But then at the end of the statement, you got asterisk saying it's not proven to make me feel better. So how's it going to make me feel better again?
Exactly. And if I come down with these symptoms, I need to see my doctor. Wait a minute. Let me just go see my doctor in the first place. Let me just go see this, man.
Yeah, be careful what you put inside. Please do. Interesting. Got another one popping up. Johnson & Johnson. Let me pull this up real quick.
I think I heard about that one. Thank you for that this morning. It's rising. Peace to everybody in the chat. Peace, TMH.
Okay, this one states that Johnson & Johnson knowingly marketed potentially harmful products to African American women, reports finds.
Listen to this.
Yeah, I'm just reading it as the
Johnson
article
and Johnson
states.
intentionally.
Yeah.
Mm.
It says a New Jersey jury cleared pharmaceutical company Johnson & Johnson in March of liability following a lawsuit by a man who alleged asbestos in the company's talc-based product caused his what is it, mesothelioma.
What is it? Mesothelioma or
Yeah,
something like that.
mesothelioma. Yeah, mesothelioma. Okay, there we go.
Say that 4 times fast.
I know. I'll say it once, just once.
Mesothelioma for corrections. But Reuters reported Tuesday that the company continued to aggressively market its talc-based product for years, even after the World Health Organization classified such products as possible carcinogenic. Reuters report Johnson & Johnson ignored warning labels on its shipments from talc supplier Zinc America Inc. and launched a campaign that specifically targeted African American and overweight women. An internal Johnson & Johnson 2016 marketing presentation reportedly said that the right places to focus the campaign were underdeveloped geographical areas with hot weather and higher AA populations, with the AA referring to African American. Johnson & Johnson reportedly proceeded to distribute baby powder, which is talc-based product, through churches, beauty salons, and African American and Hispanic neighborhoods. It's also reported ran print and digital advertisement with Weight Watchers. A lawsuit filed in Mississippi in 2014 alleges Johnson & Johnson failed to warn consumers of its products' health risk and used racially targeted strategy to continue its sales, which the company denies. In response to Reuters' question, a Johnson & Johnson spokesperson said, suggesting the company targeted a particular group with a potential harmful product is incredibly offensive and false. And let me pull up the rest of it here. Give me 1 second. It goes further on the states. As worries about baby powder safely mounted, Johnson & Johnson focused its pitch on minority overweight women. The company sought for decades to shore up weakening sales of its iconic talc with ads aimed at specific types of women. Many of the same types who today are among those alleging in thousands of lawsuits that J&J powder caused their cancers. Pressures were mounting on Johnson & Johnson and its signature baby powder in 2016. An arm of the World Health Organization began classifying cosmetic talc, such as baby powder, as possible carcinogenic. When women used it as a genitalia antiperspirant and deodorant, as many had been doing for years, talc supplier, the Zinc America Inc. started including that information on its shipments to Johnson & Johnson and other consumers. J&J, meanwhile, looked for ways to sell more baby powder to two key groups of longtime users, African American and overweight women. The right place to focus, according to a 2016 internal J&J marketing presentation, was underdeveloped geographical areas with hot weather and higher AA populations, the AA referring to African Americans. Powder is still considered a relevant product among AA consumers. The presentation said, this can be an opportunity. In the following years, J&J turned those proposals into action. Internal company documents show it distributed baby powder samples through churches and beauty salons in African American and Hispanic neighborhoods, ran digital and print promotions with weight loss and wellness company Weight Watchers, and launched a $300,000 radio advertising campaign in a half-dozen markets aiming to reach curvy Southern women, 18 to 49, skewing African American. There are only some of the more recent recent examples of J&J. Decade-long efforts to offset declining baby powder sales aimed risk concerns about the health effects of talc based on Reuters' review of the year of J&J print, radio, and digital advertising campaigns, and thousands of pages of internal marketing documents and email correspondence. Adults have been the main users of Johnson's baby powder since at least the 1970s, after pediatricians started warning of the danger to infants of inhaling talc. As adults became even more crucial to the brand, accounting for 91% of baby powder used by the mid-2000s, J&J honed its powder pitches to court a variety of targeted markets, from teen-focused ads touting the product's fresh and natural qualities to promotions aimed at older, minority, and overweight women. Today, women who fall into these categories make up a large number of the 13,000 plaintiffs alleging that J&J baby powder and Shower to Shower, a powder brand the company sold off in 2012, caused their ovarian cancer. Many of the ovarian cancer lawsuits have blamed the disease. Excuse me, it skipped for a second. All right. Many of the ovarian cancer lawsuits have blamed the disease on J&J cosmetic talcs, a claim reported by some studies showing an association between such use and increased cancer risk. The most recent cases have alleged that J&J talc products contain asbestos, a long-known carcinogen. In an investigation published December 14th, Reuters revealed that J&J knew for decades that small amounts of asbestos had occasionally been found in its raw talc, and in baby powder, and in Shower to Shower, based on test results from the early 1970s to the early 2000s, information it did not disclose in regulators or to the public. J&J challenged the findings of the Reuters report, describing them as inaccurate and misleading. Crystal Kim, a 53-year-old African-American, was one of the 22 plaintiffs whose case in St. Louis resulted in a jury verdict last summer of $4.69 billion against J&J, Kim said. Baby powder and Shower to Shower were household staples among her family and friends when she was growing up in New Jersey. Kim played baseball as a teenager, she said, and her mother told her to apply baby powder to avoid being the stinky girl. Every time I took a shower, I put baby powder on, recalled Kim, whose ovarian cancer, first diagnosed in 2014, is now in remission. I put it on my panties, I put it on my clothes, everywhere. J&J is appealing the St. Louis verdict. The company did not respond to requests for an interview with Chief Executive Officer Alex Groski or any other executive to discuss the company's marketing of cosmetic powders. In an email response to question from Reuters, J&J said its baby powder is safe and asbestos-free. It noted that the company marketing over the years has been directed at many demographics and groups, and that we're proud pioneers of the practice of multicultural marketing. It also pointed out that some baby powder ads have featured the cornstarch version of baby powder, the safety of which isn't questioned. Reports by Bloomberg News, the New York Times, and the Post and Courier of Charleston, South Carolina, has cited some internal J&J documents revealing the company's focus on African American and overweight women at certain times, but the full timeline and scale of the marketing efforts, particularly those aimed at teenage girls and minority communities, and through organizations such as Weight Watchers, are reported here for the first time. Most businesses know the demographic profiles of those who buy their products, and as a matter of course, direct their marketing at those groups. Some fast food companies and soft drink makers, for example, have courted minority customers to increase sales among heavy users at times of growing public concerns about the possible health effects of their products. In a lawsuit filed in Mississippi State Court in 2014, Mississippi Attorney General Jim Hood alleges that J&J failed to warn consumers of the risk associated with its talc products and accuses the company of implementing a racially targeted strategy for selling baby powder after J&J became aware of health concerns The company focused its marketing on minority communities, expected to be more likely to use the talc products, Hood claims in a lawsuit. J&J denied the allegations and last year filed a motion for summary judgment in the suit, arguing that the case involved matters of the federal law beyond the state's purview. A judge in December denied J&J's motion, a move the company has appealed. The case is scheduled for retrial later this year. In its response to Reuters questions, J&J suggested that Johnson & Johnson targeted a particular group with a potentially harmful product is incredibly offensive and false. It says here, deep personal trust. Sold continuously since 1894, Johnson's baby powder accounted for less than 1% of J&J's 81.6 billion revenue last year, but it deemed critical to the company's family-friendly image. An internal J&J marketing presentation from 1999 refers to the baby products division with baby powder at the core as J&J's #1 asset, grounded in deep personal trust. Beginning in the 1950s, however, a series of case studies published in medical journals pointed to the dangers of breathing in talc. Pediatricians took notice by the late 1950s. A third of them were recommending cornstarch or oil to treat diaper rash and chafing because there is no dangerous dust in them, according to an internal J&J report. It states a report in June 1966 edition of the American Journal of Disease of Children, citing the deaths of 3 children who inhaled large amounts of talcum powder, concluded there was no justification for using the product on babies because it has no medicine value. By 1974, more than 60% of Johnson's baby powder sales were attributed to adults who used it on themselves, according to J&J analysis. Losing the connection to the product's namesake, babies, left J&J eager to cultivate other markets. It states beginning in the 1970s, J&J ran ads clearly intended to woo young women in addition to its traditional marketing aimed at families with babies. "You start being sexy when you stop trying," was the line from an ad that appeared in the 17 magazine in 1972. The photo shows a young woman stroking a young man's curly blonde hair. "It's a feeling you never outgrow," is how an ad in Family Circle magazine from the mid-1980s put it, with a photo of a bottle of baby powder next to a teddy bear alongside the mirrored reflection of a young woman. In 1989, advertising firm Young and Rubicam submitted a plan to J&J to initiate a high level of usage among young women to augment the weakening baby link. Under the plan, ads in style magazine like 17, YM, Glamour, just a few, would try to convince teen girls that Johnson's baby powder, applied daily after showering, is a simple feminine way to smell clean and fresh during the day. Young and Rubicam, now known as VMLY&R, declined to comment on the document and referred questioning to J&J. Baby powder sales continued to fall throughout the 1980s and early 1990s, since health professionals had already recommended against using talc on infants in 1986. Internal reports warned a last straw safe concern could lead consumers to abandon the product altogether. As early as 1992, the company keyed in on the sales potentially with minority women. A J&J memo that year mentions high usage rates for baby powder of 52% among African Americans and 37.6% among Hispanic consumers, and notes that women on both ethnicities use the product more than the general population. The memo suggested investigating ethnic African American/Hispanic opportunities to grow the franchise, while referring to the negative publicity from the health community on talc, including inhalation, dust, negative doctor endorsements, cancer leakage. Portions of that memo were cited in reports from the Bloomberg and New York Times. It said by 2006, the company was recognizing that consumers did not see a need for powder, According to a sales presentation that year, baby powder shipments had been stagnant. In recent years, the presentation said, and it was essential to find a new business model that strategically and effectively targets high potential customers. Those groups, according to the presentation, African Americans, nearly 60% of whom use baby powder by this time, compared to about 30% for the overall population. Overweight people and fitness conscious people looking to lose weight. It was also in 2006 that the International Agency for Research on Cancer and an arm of the World Health Organization classified preanal use of talc as possible carcinogenic, saying available research provided limited evidence it caused cancer in humans. That came about 20 years after the IRAC classified talc containing asbestos formed fibers as carcinogenic to humans, its highest risk classification. After the IARC's 2006 move, talc supplier Luzanic America started including a note about the agency's latest classification on a chemical safety document, accompanying shipments to all customers, including J&J, under a heading that reads, carcinogenic status. The document says the IARC has concluded the examination use on talc-based baby powder is possible carcinogenic to humans. In a deposition for one of the ovarian cancer cases tried in St. Louis, the company said it felt it was important to add what they referred to as a warning to the safety document. Asked whether Luzanic knew that J&J did not pass on this warning, they said it is not our job to tell our customers what to do with their products. In a statement to Reuters, Talc America Inc., as Luzanic is now known, said talc safe use has been confirmed by multiple regulatory and scientific bodies, echoing J&J's response. 2 years after the IARC classification, J&J sought proposals for African American agency to develop marketing campaigns for the company's baby product line. A 2008 document sent to a prospective agency summed up the situation. Johnson's baby oil, baby powder products, while traditionally used only on babies, are today primarily consumed by adult AA women for uses on themselves. One way to reserve the brand's decline, it said, was by speaking to AA consumers with a more relevant message with the most effective media vehicles. That year, the company contacted with the North Carolina marketing firm, Segmented Marketing Services, INC, which said it specializes in targeting promotions to ethnic consumers. The firm would distribute 100,000 gift bags containing baby powder and other Johnson's baby products in African American and Hispanic neighborhoods in Chicago, according to a contract with J&J. Run by African Americans who had been executives at Procter & Gamble Company and Quaker Oats. Segmented Marketing Services has said in past press releases and its own marketing publications that it hands out millions of free product samples and promotional offers through national networks of more than 10,000 African American and Hispanic churches and tens of thousands of beauty salons, barbershops, entertainment venues, and healthcare networks. The company published an editorial in 2008, prepared for distribution with Johnson's baby products, in which the firm's founder, Sandra Miller Jones and Lafayette Jones, said, "Welcome J&J as a partner." When carrying rituals started in infancy, continued throughout adulthood, a person's self-confidence and even faith in the world are often strengthened, the pamphlet said. Whether in the gym, at work, at church, or at the beach, Johnson's baby powder helps grown-ups feel more comfortable in their own skin. It came with a coupon for $1 off of baby powder. Lafayette Jones and Sandra Miller Jones did not respond to calls, emails, and LinkedIn messages seeking comment. J&J also launched campaigns to boost sales on baby powder to curb Southern women, athletic adults who want to smell fresh. According to company documents, it advertised in Weight Watchers magazine and offered promotions through the Lane Bryant clothing chain for plus-size women and curves, a women's fitness and weight loss franchise. Marketing plans also included ads to run in Southern Living magazine. And during the Styles Network show, Ruby, a reality TV series that documented an obese Georgia woman on a mission to lose weight. In 2009, a presentation laying out the powder media plan highlights that it will reach 31 million people in the South, hot climates, overweight states, and that 43% of our plan will focus on the top 10 overweight states in the nation. A 2009 ad in Weight Watchers magazine suggested readers bust stress with a midday workout and then stay fresh post-exercise by applying Johnson's baby powder. Internal J&J marketing emails before the Weight Watchers campaign ran discuss whether the women featured are heavy enough to resonate with the intended audience. Can you ask WW if they have any images of slightly bigger women? They don't have to be super curvy, but a little bigger than the current image would be preferable, wrote Grace Lee, a J&J brand manager to others at the company and an ad agency Lowe in New York. Weight Watchers, now known officially as WW International Inc., declined to comment on the campaign. Lee, an Interpublic Group of Companies Inc., which owns the former Lowe New York, didn't respond to requests for the comment. The Weight Watchers campaign was successful, according to a 2009 internal J&J recap, which showed that sales of baby powder at Walmart shot up as much as 9% during the summer months when the ads ran from the same months a year, earlier revising the decline. J&J's overall baby powder media advertising budget increased proposal, $495,000 for 2010, up to 71% from $288,000 in 2009, driven by more dedicated spending toward promotions for overweight women. The company in 2010 launched a radio campaign in the South targeting curvy Southern women, 18.49% skewing African American. A presentation from TMPG, a marketing agency that handles promotions with radio DJs, said the campaign made more than 18 million impressions on the targeted audience through ads and promotions on urban adult contemporary radio stations in southern markets, including Dallas, Atlanta, Nashville, Mobile, Alabama, and Jackson, Mississippi. The presentation slides features some photos of plus-size African-American women holding baby powder samples at targeted station events that also included spa giveaways and a baby powder Stay Cool cash. TMPG did not respond to requests for comment. In a 2010 email, Deborah DeSoto, a J&J promotions and marketing manager who oversaw the baby products line at the time, gave the green light to the proposed radio stations for the campaign in Dallas, saying, "We are good with those general marketing stations that have good Hispanic reach and a good AA reach." In another 2010 email, she said, the DJs will be the baby powder brand ambassadors, charged with communicating our message, encouraging listeners to call in to talk about how they use baby powder, and driving to the retails where appropriate to get it. All the radio promotions will be based on the weather, she wrote. If it's hot and humid, we will run that week. If it's rainy or colder, we won't. DeSoto, who knows work as a promotions and marketing manager at Bristol Myers Squibb Co., did not respond to requests for comment. J&J spends on baby powder promotion coupons, discounts, and samples came to about $1.2 million in 2008 and again in 2010. Almost half of it directed at overweight and minority women. By 2011, The company cut back its promotional spending to $752,000, mostly aimed at the general consumer market. In 2013, a jury found J&J negligent in the first case ever to claim that regular use of baby powder for feminine hygiene caused ovarian cancer. The jury didn't award monetary damages, but the verdict spawned a cascade of similar lawsuits. Of the 8 ovarian cancer cases that have gone to trial so far, 4 have resulted in verdicts for plaintiffs and 1 for the company. 3 other verdicts against J&J were overturned on appeal. In 12 trials of cases claiming that asbestos in the talc caused plaintiffs, J&J was cleared of liability in 5 and plaintiffs won 3, resulting in a total of $172 million in damages. 4 others resulting in hung juries and mistrials. And J&J is out to appeal all the last verdicts. Wow.
So there's a lot to discuss here.
Yes. That's one like,
I don't know where the class action lawsuit is.
So I wanna
dive in.
the first thing I want to mention is that Johnson & Johnson's stock has dropped because they just lost the bid to reverse the $4.7 billion verdict. So we can,
we made that official.
We could throw that in there.
Okay. Wow.
The first thing that stuck out to me, and I put it in the chat, is that the plaintiffs and the target audience / clients were described as AA or African American, and were never once described as black. I don't know if anybody caught that.
Yeah, I wrote that down while I was reading it. I don't know if y'all caught my pen clicking.
Because by law, that's how we've been described, and that's how many of us are self-describing ourselves. That's the first thing. So whenever there's a lawsuit, you have to, and it's against a race or ethnic group, you have to use the right classification. That's the first thing. The second thing I want to look into is what type of entity is it? Meaning, is it a for-profit entity or is it a 501c? Because that will let me know what some of their options are. Because you lose a $4.7 billion lawsuit, that's going to eat into your net profits. It will affect how your company is ran, because I think Johnson & Johnson is a publicly ran company, which means they have stockholders that sit on their board. The next thing is that if anybody understands slander and libel, the only reason why the news media this was able to be reported was because it has not been disproven, and they've already lost the case, which basically means there's a lot more truth to it than is not. Because news has to be very careful. The media outlet has to be very careful when they make accusations. I don't recall you saying the word allegedly once.
Yeah, not once.
So if it's not allegedly, then it's been confirmed that those things have been determined to be true based off of a lawsuit or based off of depositions of information. Okay. So the question is, where did they get this information from? And this is the reason why understanding business and understanding bylaws and understanding board meetings is important, because all your successful businesses have target audiences. And anyone that's a business owner, one of the first things they teach you is that you must have a target audience to be successful. And you mentioned many times that there was an audience, a specific group of people that they were targeting.
Yes, sir.
African American women who were curvy or overweight. You can't get too much more specific than that. And then there was even an instance where they wanted images of women that were actually curvier. So they had a specific range in mind, meaning they were even boiling it down to the how much weight they wanted to appear to have, and even the demographic as far as how hot the temperature was.
Mm-hmm. That's the next thing that stuck out. They were like, "Oh, when it's super hot, we're gonna run it this week." I'm like, "Wow." And then also
Sorry about
knowing,
that. I had
no problem, no problem.
now go ahead. Also knowing what?
Also knowing that it was dangerous and deadly. Not one time in the article do you ever hear reports about J&J talking about abandoning the product for something safer. They're finding ways how to still move and sell the product. I'm like, wow.
Hold on. I gotta drop out to take this call. I'll be right back.
Hmm.
Talc is cheap. It must be.
Yeah, because I'm
Talc.
like, you know, from reading the article, like I said, what pointed out to me big time was that the whole time in every time frame in the years that we're going through, everybody telling it's deadly. They can't deny it. They cannot deny that it's not deadly. So they on record knowing that it's deadly. And every time they get together with a marketing firm, it's not about, okay, how can we clean up the image because we're moving away from this deadly product. It's how can we clean it up to sell it to this group of people over here.
Yeah, they don't know about it, so let's go over here with that.
And then by it being public knowledge, and it seems like everybody cool with this.
Yeah. No, I think this is life in general now. People cool with stuff that's public knowledge. Like, well, they ain't lying to us. I
Man.
guess it's all right.
I'm like, wow.
That's ridiculous, man. Target
Then they
audience. Target audience is most of the big mamas out there. Most of y'all big mamas. That was the target audience. That's crazy.
telling you that they went after companies of our own people that consisted of our own people to target us. And the next sad part is all these people that had their hands in it, they going to ask questions. And see, I would like to ask one question too. You know what I'm saying? Did you know when you took this campaign to run it on your people that this was deadly? That's my first question I would like to ask.
Mm-hmm.
If I can get that question submitted in to all these parties that had their hands in the poisoning,
That's a whole nother lawsuit right there.
I mean,
Yeah.
really,
Somebody got to go to jail, man. Somebody got to go.
somebody, yeah, it comes a point in time to where accountability,
Yeah, who are the
because,
scientists that recommended the talc being the best thing? That's what I want to know.
but like they said in the article, the scientists telling them don't use it. The company, think about it, the company
Oh.
that sells them the stuff told them it's no good.
Mm-mm-mm.
So I'm like, hold on, your supplier that sells you the ingredients to make your baby powder telling you it's no good.
They said, "Oh, you using this on people? Man, you better stop that." No, no, no. Just keep supplying. Just
And
keep
then
supplying.
when they ask the company that sell them the tout, they say they can't tell they consumers they customers what to do with it. But you
This is
still
fact.
selling poison for humans.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, after knowing what it was used for, being the person that distributes or supplies it, I don't know. I guess the morality in people and companies. I'm sorry. Well, no,
Oh,
companies are people, my friend. So never mind.
yeah, let
Never
them
mind.
tell it. Yeah, the corporation people do. But I'm like, hey, well, somebody need to answer why y'all been poisoning our communities with this stuff for years, knowingly.
Population control, yeah. We the majority. We've been the majority. How else can they get rid of us?
You know? Yeah, I feel you, Mr. Miller. I'm pissed because I'm like, this stuff been in our communities for like ever.
Yeah. Still in the community, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
People still buying
'Cause
talcum powder.
when I first heard about it, I want to say it was probably like a couple of years ago. I got away from like all the products and stuff. But come to find out, the lawsuit been going on from the 70s and 60s and the 1800s. They knew about this stuff being poisonous.
Hmm. Bet you they family members ain't using it.
You know, catch up with the chat real quick. Grand Rising Hugh and P Nuisance. I see we got in the chat. Antonio Baptiste, Grand Rising Golden Moon, aka KD. What it do? Make sure that's everybody who came in so far. You missed no one who just came through. Grand Rising, we got Mr. White Tuber. Those are the ones I don't recognize this rising. Yeah, Antonio Flint still don't have clean water. But that be the problem with these stories is that they come up, a little noise be made, and that's it. And maybe we need to start getting a lot louder and a lot more active on what we want done with these situations. Because if the firms and the other people that's supposed to be representing us obviously do not have our best interests in mind, we need to start saying something.
Mm. Right.
Every company that has their hands tied into a product that kills us, and they know this, need to be put on notice. I mean, from the advertisers to the radio companies that's playing the ads,
Mm-hmm.
because there's no way we can sit back and accept that you're going to poison communities for generations and generations and generations. And it's cool that you purposely targeted our communities to help the sales of your poisonous product. Yeah, I'm from that time where people use it every day. Used to sprinkle it all on their beds, and that's why I'm mad. I'm like, hold on, man, oh, crazy. Halito Macadon one, Grand Rising, Grand Rising. They're going through this crazy Johnson and Johnson story. I'm like, But I marked it down on alerts, no sellout. So if anything new on them court cases pop up, we'll get notice on it. Cause I'm like, wow. That's crazy. That's crazy. Let's see what we got next. Pulling up for the stories just rising. Give me 1 second. Next story that's rising, we have come out of Louisiana. It says FBI state authorities probe three suspicious blazes at African American churches in Louisiana. Just saying the African American statement from the article.
Talking about church fires? The church fires in
Yeah.
Louisiana? Okay.
Mm-hmm. It say firefighters and fire investigators respond to a fire at Mount Pleasant Baptist Church. This was Thursday, April 4th, 2019. Authorities in southern Louisiana are investigating a string of suspicious fires at three African American churches in recent days. Fire Marshal H. Butch Browning said it wasn't clear whether the fires in St. Landry Parish are connected, and he had declined to get into specifics of what the investigation had yielded so far, but described the blazes as suspicious. It says the FBI and state authorities in Louisiana are investigating three suspicious fires at historically African American churches in recent days. The first occurred March 26th at the St. Mary's Baptist Church in Port Barre, and the second happened Tuesday when the Greater Union Baptist Church caught fire. Then it says Mount Pleasant Baptist Church caught fire on Thursday. The churches are home to African American congregations, were empty at the time of the fires, and no injuries were recorded. The authorities said that they are working to determine the motives of the alleged perpetrators and whether the fires were connected. Fire Marshal H. Butch Browning was cautious in describing the blazes but called them suspicious and added that if you're going to turn to a house of God, turn to it for resurrection, he said. Says Browning noted that there are several other patterns connected to fires in addition to the facts that the targets were all Black Baptist churches in the same parish. The ATF and the FBI also are involved in the investigation. Over 40 people from the Marshal Office are currently working on the case, describing it as extremely active right now. Religious leaders gathered on Thursday to talk about the fires and support the affected churches, which are well over 100 years old. Other parish churches, meanwhile, are being provided additional security. According to St. Landry Sheriff Bobby Guduza, the Lafayette Daily Advertiser reported, Guduza promised to do whatever it takes to prevent these fires and to try to catch this individual. We have a lot of churches in this parish. Lots of the churches, excuse me, lots of the churches, he told the outlets, were going to take it one day at a time and try to provide the security that they need. Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards said in a written statement that our churches are sacred, central parts of our communities, and everyone should feel safe in their places of worship. So there's still ongoing investigation trying to find out or find any links to the fires being set. You know, me personally knowing the age of what they say the churches and stuff are, I just hope records and stuff were recovered or wasn't lost in them fires, because I know that has a lot to do with a lot of our personal history. You know, they said no personal injuries or harm was done to a person. You know, what y'all take on the fires? Y'all think it's a person, coincidence? I mean, let me know how you feeling about it.
I would never say that a church fire is a coincidence. But I mean, talking about like not coincidence, but these three of them are in the last 10 days or something, right? Yeah, I don't feel like that's an accident at all. That's arson.
And
if I was a church in the South, I'd be looking into camera systems now. I'd be looking into security systems, some kind of surveillance, just as a what is it called? Pre-measures. Go ahead, TMH.
Well, these are older churches for one. We don't know what their financial records are. Number two, we are not aware of the maintenance that was performed on it. If the last time there were some suggested things to be done to keep their fire from happening. There was no. I only came in on halfway through, so I wasn't aware of any experts ruling out arson. But the thing that I noticed was that they were called Black churches, not African American churches.
So is that not lawful? Because they're not talking about the law.
I'm just saying. I just noticed they were called Black churches, not African American churches. That's what I'm saying. I can't, I just found it interesting. And also too, Bones made a great point. Those churches are old, so there are a lot of records, genealogy records, and if these churches are being burned as people are doing their history and doing their research, that's one way to ensure that you don't know who you are, is if they burn your records. So, like you said, churches need to, not just churches in the South, but churches all over need to be very.
Aboriginal churches need to be careful.
Not just Aboriginal churches though, because you got.
So you're saying all the most churches hold genealogy records, not
think
just
about
South,
Think about this. What about the Catholic churches that hold a lot of our records? What about
Mm,
Ancestry.com, that's owned by what? A lot of the Mormon churches.
Mormon churches,
They're
yeah.
not Aboriginal churches.
Wow. Okay, I got you.
So if the best way, and again, this is not, I'm not making an accusation. This is a question that I'm posing for people to think about. The best way to disguise these arsons would be to classify them as a religious crime or a crime against Christianity, right?
Yeah,
Okay, something to think about.
Yeah,
yeah,
brush
definitely.
it under the rug that way.
Hmm.
You know
And
that
you don't ask the questions that you need to ask and look for what you need to look for. Because that's the first thing I said. I wonder if them churches held any records. They're over 100 years old.
they probably did, and that stuff was stored somewhere. In a lot of churches, especially the Baptist churches that I'm familiar with, that I grew up in, they had basements where a
Hmm.
lot of the records were stored. So hold on.
And that'd be my thing with it. That what got lost.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, if it's somebody that's just mad at churches, why is only Baptist churches in them southern areas? I'm like TMH. I'm not saying that's what it is. It's just very funny to me that all these other places of worship of other people don't end up like that. But then again, it boils back to what we say again: us making that shift and making that change to start taking responsibility for the keeping of our own records, our own information. I mean, yes, we see the things that they do. We had two stories so far that showed how we're targeted or this rising. And yes, it's easy to get mad and get upset and get emotional, but we got to remember that's what they count on us doing. Instead of taking the time out to step back and be like, okay, we need to cut off from this, this, and this, and this. And if we have to cut this off right here, we have to start putting in the work so we have replacements for this, this, and this. And the only way you get there is by moving forward. There's no magic plan, no magic remedy. It's choice that we as an individual and we as a group of people must choose to do better. And that's by taking these steps forward every day, the info and the knowledge that you have, and applying it, not just listening, not just repeating something that you heard over and over, but we must start applying it. If we see that companies are targeting us through their media, then we need our own media. If we see that these companies are poisoning and killing us through products that we use in our households every day, then that means we need to start manufacturing our own. And it all goes back to being self sufficient because everything shows you that that's your best choice. These multi-million dollar companies have no plans or intentions on doing what's best for you, especially if you have no plans or no intentions on doing what's best for you. We, and when I say we, I'm talking to myself and everybody as an individual. We have to make better choices. We got to make better decisions. And we must hold ourselves accountable. We must stop being afraid to speak out against the things that hurt our communities the most. Because if we're sitting down on the couch with our tails tucked in between our legs, we're no better than the people that's pumping the poison to us all day. Matter of fact, we're worse because we can do something about it and we choose not to. And people may ask, what can we do? It's simple. Choose not to partake in the things that's killing you and your community. I mean, it really doesn't take that much. Choose to stop partaking in the things that's causing the most damage to you and your community and your surroundings. You just want to say something, TMH?
Yeah. So I went and started looking up. I went to the Johnson and Johnson website,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know why I thought this, but I always thought this was a Aboriginal business, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
They were they started in 1886. Robert Wood Johnson founded Johnson and Johnson with his brothers James and Edward, with the goal of manufacturing the first mass-produced antiseptic surgical dressing and sutures. Johnson's drive and advanced healthcare innovation and his diverse and inclusive hiring practices set the tone for people first values the company would espouse in decades to come. So this company has been in existence since 1886. And so I'm just doing some research on to see what type of company it is.
Mm-hmm.
And this is during the 1800s, especially 1880s. This is when medical companies and universities was popping up all over the Great North. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so this company has been studying us since 1886. They know how to target to us. They know how to sell to us. They know what we buy. They know what we like.
Yep.
So they know how to take the money out of our pockets and put it in theirs.
Hmm.
Think about it. 200 years they watched and studied us.
And the reason why I say this is because again, you have to know your competitor. You have to know who you're dealing with, their mindset and their thought process. They know us better than we know ourselves. Yet and still, it appears to me that many people are saying, well, we need to get away from them and not know them when they're attacking you. Well, my thing is, where you gonna go? Where you going to go if this is where you're from? Or this is where you discover this is where you're from. So you either leave or you stay and you battle back, but you got to know who you're battling. And the thing that I want people to pay attention to and also do some research on is that now that they had this $4.7 billion lawsuit, and it appears that they may be losing more because there's already been a case study and precedent sets, and anybody that understands law know that as these cases continue, they're going to continue to use those case studies to win those cases.
Yep.
So that means Johnson & Johnson is going to continue to lose money. So does anybody know what a company that's facing multiple filed lawsuits, what their first option could be to stop the bleeding?
What Johnson and Johnson's first option gonna be?
Or any company facing that type of situation as a business. Now let's look at it from a standpoint of what it is, a business. It's a for-profit entity.
Oh, they gonna do what they've been doing.
Okay.
They gonna get that money from some market. Some market out there gonna pay that money. They ain't gonna come out of their pocket.
Well, you know they're already broken up into divisions, so they have different
Mm-hmm.
different brands, different divisions, meaning they have different tax ID numbers.
Yep. One to pop up. A new one to pop up with that same product pushing off to us. What was it? Shower to shower.
So Antonio said liquidation, and then Larissa said go out of business. So, and I'm asking a question because I'm trying to get people to think about how businesses operate and how they think. So
They're gonna
businesses
rebrand.
Businesses handle losses differently than people.
Mm-hmm.
So if they continue losing money, it's very possible that some of their options are to move their assets to another tax ID number and then file bankruptcy,
Mm-hmm.
and then keep the DBA and continue to do business. So anybody know what happened when a company files bankruptcy?
You get nothing. Everything consolidated. You out of gas.
Mm-hmm.
See you in 10. Let me stop. But that's all they're gonna do. But it's what you have always said before. Understanding business will help you understand how this country actually runs. That with these companies, that's all they're gonna do is go bankruptcy, move the assets. They already got probably a hundred other shell names for companies and just sell the product. Because a multi-million dollar company is not going to invest all that money and throw waste away. They're going to chop it up so many times and repackage it under so many names.
They can always sell that product to a country that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have as strict health
Yep.
laws dealing with talc with asbestos in it, or they
Yep.
can find another use for the talc.
Mm-hmm. And the next thing they gave me when they were like they were giving it away free in our neighborhoods. And all the churches y'all get this. All the hair stores. Stand out there, just give it to them.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
They're headquartered in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And Golden Moon, aka KD, says they consolidate their assets, sell some of their stocks.
Yeah, but they ain't gonna take no personal loss. They good.
Yeah.
Sales, good. Remember what the cigarette companies did with the major lawsuits? Think they still here?
Yep. And we need to understand that when you see a company like Johnson and Johnson, I have to do some more research on how they're structured. They have different divisions. I'm sure they have a division specifically for the talc powder section, meaning that's one company by itself to limit their liability. And I bet if you do some research, you'll find that once that report was instituted that there was asbestos in talc and talc could harm you, they probably separated that company from the original corporate headquarters just to reduce their liability.
But let me tell you what stood out. I'm glad you brought that back up because it stood out to me. Johnson and Johnson baby powder. There's two products. There's a cornstarch one and there's a talc one. So my question was this: what community are they sending the cornstarch one to?
Well, let's go see what ads we find for Johnson Johnson cornstarch powder.
Because that part caught me there. I'm like, hold on. Y'all making baby powder and you got two different formulas. You got the safe one made from cornstarch, but you're still making the one from talc. Why? Knowing that it's deadly. And I do not remember reading the article not one time that they said that they were marketing the cornstarch variety to us. It was always the talc based variety that was marketed and given away free to all. and our communities.
Well, I found one advertisement for it. So they say, as LJ says, LJ Free says, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So I'm gonna put the link in the chat. See if it won't let me. I'll put it in the back chat and then y'all can
Yeah, I'll grab it and put it up on the screen for everybody.
Yeah, because this is interesting. Just put it this way: the baby and the mother are not melanated. How about that?
All right, y'all, give me like a quick 20 seconds. Finna grab it and post it up.
Yeah, hold on. I got to put it back there. I got to log into my email first. Then go to my Google Hangouts. So give me a second. It's coming. Had somebody doing some work on my on the HVAC, so I was very limited what I had access to. All right, I just put in the back chat.
All right, grabbing it now.
And that's the reason why it's important to understand what and who we are dealing with, because we're not being attacked per se by groups of people or a race of people. We're being attacked by corporations and companies and businesses.
And their tactics and strategies.
Exactly. And we need to understand it. And we need to, it's very important that we exercise extreme emotional intelligence when dealing with these attacks. And not only that, but disseminating that information. Because if not, we could find ourselves in a worse or similar situation than some of our ancestors. Because we're not using our what's the best way to put it? Our critical thinking like we were gifted. If that makes sense. Golden Moon said they closed their company here in Grand Prairie and turned into a church. Now I believe it's just an empty building. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But we need to understand how these entities are running, because the reason why companies like this continue to promote or continue to appear to promote their product that's harming a specific demographic of people, because they have lawyers, they have teams of lawyers, and this is important for people to know. They have teams of lawyers that do an assessment of the proposed damages if they're exposed. I'm gonna say this again. These companies have a team of lawyers that perform an assessment of the proposed damages should what they do be exposed, and then they make a determination of, in the event that we are sued or in the event that there's a whistleblower, how much does it cost us? And if what is going to cost them is not going to be as much as what they earned, then it's a good ROI, return on their investment. Case in point. So let's just say they've been knowing about the talc situation, right? let's just say they've been known about the talc situation since the 80s, especially with the asbestos. Because I know that they started pulling asbestos out of buildings. I know when I used to work at the post office, they shut up.
Yeah,
They shut a portion of our building down because they had to pull out asbestos. And my father, he won a lawsuit because he has asbestos in his lungs from working in the shipyard. So all this started accumulating in the 80s. So you figure this is 2019. So they're just now being going through lawsuits with this. So their law team did an assessment of what the punitive damages could be once they're sued by their clients. And let's just say the punitive damages may have been, let's just say it's $10 billion, right? But if
Mm-hmm.
the 10 to 20-year run was going to earn them $100 billion, and they had to pay 10 billion of that in restitution, right? That's over a $90 billion profit.
Mm-hmm.
So what they could do, or what it could have been proposed for them to do, is to put that money for restitution
Yeah.
in an account with an aggressive um, interest, so that they can actually pay that out in the event that they're sued.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, we know that this is not good for the client, but because it's giving us such a high return on our investment, it's worth the penalty because it's going to generate such a profit that we can afford to take the loss. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Yeah.
That's how
Yep.
companies operate. And if we choose to continue to not want to deal with companies and just want to take ourselves away from the situation, you would never know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You would then get emotional and end up doing some stuff that's going to not only harm you but harm your legacy, because you're not operating from any uh, what I would call emotional intelligence. You're just being emotional and unintelligent.
Mm-hmm.
But when you understand how they operate, you can remove the emotion from it, because now at the end of the day, to them, the company is so big, they're not looking at people as people. They're looking at them as a target market, and they're just not targeting us. This is
Mm-hmm.
another thing that people have to understand. They have target audiences in every division.
Yep.
We just happen to be the audience that spends disproportionately more
More.
money than any other race,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't own as much. In this land, you are either a producer or you are a consumer.
That's all.
So if you're a producer, you're still consuming because you're purchasing products and goods and services.
Mm-hmm.
Our people have a tendency to be just consumers. Now, I'm not talking about the brothers and sisters that are conscious and things of that nature, but I'm talking about for those that have family members that are in the that are in the specifically exclusively consumer sector. So I'm not talking about us, but just so we can help people understand that in this country and most other countries, you're either a producer or a consumer. So if your whole life is built on consuming, all you're doing is you're taking this, what they call fiat currency, and you're just spending it somewhere else. And the money is not circulating in your own community, because we have so many divisive viewpoints that we're not being able to take advantage of this system, because everybody wants to pull out the system, but they have no system to go into. And so they just get frustrated, agitated, and upset.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting as you if you people decide to start to study business ethics and business etiquette. One of the biggest challenges that the Asian communities, like in China, they had a hard time understanding how Americans did business, because If you sue somebody in China, that's personal. There have been companies and people that have sued each other. They still continue to do business because they understand this is when you know that term. This is business. It's not personal. That's how corporations work. That's the reason why documentations and bylaws are set in place and put in place so it will not be personal. When you put things in proper perspective and you put things in order, it allows you to remove the emotion. It allows you to see things from a different perspective and it allows you to think clearly and strategically. If you don't have a plan in place, if you don't have any order, then we act emotionally. And that's what they always expect us to do. And that has always been our demise based off of, the history of corporations dealing with us. So I'll yield the mic. Sorry for being long-winded.
No, nothing wrong with that. It just gave more clarity to it. So people who don't understand how the system and stuff works and how business works. Grand Rising Copper Indio, glad you can join the panel. How you feeling this rising?
Grand Rising, I'm doing all right. A little bit busy this morning, but I wanted to make time to get in here and talk to the tribe. Hopefully everybody out in the chat and on the panel doing well.
Okay. Anything you wanted to share to this rising's stories?
Well, I didn't have a particular story that outside of what you guys were talking about, but I heard some of what teammates were talking about as far as the motive
Oh yeah,
behind corporations.
yeah.
It,
Add on to it. Add on to it. You're more than
oh
welcome.
yeah, absolutely, because that's one thing that for anybody that works for a large corporation, especially if it's a Fortune 500 corporation, you see this if you're paying attention. A lot of people just kind of come in, do their work, and go home. But if you pay attention, all corporations, especially that are this big and operating this kind of level, like we're talking about, like with Johnson and Johnson, um, they exist solely to make money for the people at the top who run the corporations and their benefactors. And like teammates pretty eloquently said, if the cost of um, if the cost of having a recall or going through litigation on something is less than the cost of them just kind of papering over it and pretending it didn't happen or settling with a few families outside of court and having the story not hit the light of day, that's what they're going to do. Because it's financially advantageous for them to do it. I've seen people in corporations make decisions to ruin people's lives, to take their jobs, to take their livelihoods, to take their benefits. Okay, people with situations where they need health care that they're getting through their employer, where where they're only like a paycheck or two from abject poverty, and they've been allowed to do away with them because the company needs to make an extra buck this quarter. So the CEO and the CFO and the COO can have a junket and go to Thailand and do all kinds of stuff that we either wouldn't have the privilege of doing or stuff that we would think was completely gross, but that's for another time. Um, but yeah, uh, I think Antonio Batista was talking about um, the fibroids that develop from usage. I mean, I know I remember as a little kid, all the women in my family using Johnson and Johnson baby powder, on their private parts and stuff on a daily basis. This stuff that they've known this whole time causes cancer with the additives and stuff they put in these products. And so you can best believe that when a company rolls something out, if there's a carcinogen in it, um, the company putting that stuff out knows about it, or at least knew about it early on in its distribution. But because it sells, again, they're there to make money. Because it sells, they continue producing it and distributing it. And they won't stop. It doesn't matter how many people die from their products, how many people are displaced or end up disabled and can't work from their products. They don't care. They just want to make money. They're just there to make money. The same way banks are just there to make money. And this is why you have this weird, dysfunctional relationship between corporations and the banks, because the corporations are utilizing the banks to allow them, and the government as well. We can't leave the government out of this. And the government is complicit in allowing some of this stuff to stay hidden. I'm sure many of you know, but for those that don't, you should know that the government has enacted laws, has proposed, drafted, voted on, and enacted laws to protect some of these corporations from certain kinds of damages. Right now, if your child gets sick from, let's say, like a inoculation or something like that. There was a law, I'm gonna say it was like in 84, 85 or so. There's a law enacted in the 80s that allows companies that produce these dosages to not suffer any damages. They have a fund where they'll pay out a settlement. So they'll give you something for it if you got a legitimate claim and you can prove it in court. But you're not going to go after these companies directly. So none of these people going to court over this stuff really make any headlines. You'll see an article show up here or there, but again, news is curated. So you got the media also complicit in what's going on. Okay, and while everybody's sitting around arguing over who's using the proper pronouns that people want to have want to be known by or referred to as and all this other nonsense, this type of stuff going on. We got Aboriginal women undergoing chemotherapy and all other manner of drugs, procedures, and surgeries for complications to illnesses that they did not even need to have. But all of that's protected because these companies, are all protected through the government. These people, these companies. I know I'm a little long winded on this, so I'm gonna close this up. These companies are the ones paying with money they get from the banks, free money they're getting from the banks because of how low our interest rates are. These companies are getting this money to give to politicians to write their laws. This is a stacked, dysfunctional layer cake, and you can find each of these institutions in each layer of this cake. And that's the system that we have to deal with. This is what's really going on. Forget the nonsense. Forget Jussie Smollett. Forget, whatever stupid thing you heard a politician say, this today or sometime this week. This is the stuff that we have to deal with right now. I'll yield the mic.
I agree 100 on that. No sellout. Anything you wanted to add to it?
No, I'm good. I would just appreciate all y'all brothers' info. Peace, Copper Indio. Grand Rising 757.
Peace, brother.
You finna say something, TMH?
Yeah, to touch on what Copy India was saying is that you will only be allowed to sue major corporations for so long. Case in point, a lawsuit that many of us who are doing genealogy, meaning doing our research through the family tree versus getting our mouth swabbed, knew that or have heard and seen many articles and YouTube videos on how the 23andMe and Ancestry.com and all these other DNA companies were being sued for lying about the readings, and they paid out. And then they were allowed to change the packaging, stating that this was for entertainment purposes only. So now you cannot sue. So they went to court, lost the settlement, and instead of instead of the government or instead of the court telling them that they need to go out of business because they're misleading the public, they were literally allowed to say or change the packaging for it to say for entertainment purposes only and still advertise as if this information is legitimate. And then they give you the small print at the bottom of the screen, or when you open your package for entertainment purposes is in a place where you're most likely not to look for it or most likely not to see it, but because it's printed on a package, that means you are not allowed to sue because you should have known better than it was for entertainment purposes. So I yield the mic.
That's why it goes back to, like we always say, being very well informed, knowing what you put in your body, knowing what you put in on your body, being aware of what's going on in your surroundings. And not only that, once you become aware and you see what's going on, start playing your part to make a difference. We got to stop depending on people to do it for us. We have to start doing this research and learning how business works, how corporations functions, bylaws and constitutions. This is the stuff we have to take the time out to learn, because this is the fronts that they whooping us on. I mean, let's keep it 100. These are the battles that we're losing. It was never the physical part. It's when it comes down to this paperwork and how this business is ran and the language in and what you can and can't do. So I say again, take time out to learn these things while you're learning yourself. It is our ancestor system. It's just another system put on top of it.
And in addition to that, once you find your tribe, you'll know that they already have medicines, natural remedies, so to make sure that you get the nutrition and the natural things that you need for your body to operate properly, because they've been operating in that manner for thousands of years, and the information has been passed down. You won't need to go to GNC and get a some form of supplement that's supposed to do A, B, and C. Your tribe will be able to tell you what your people have been eating to best help you out, which is another reason why knowing who you are and knowing where you came from is important, because depending on where you're from will determine what you're supposed to eat versus what you're not supposed to eat. I yield the mic.
100 on that. And that was the first story of the rise in how these supplements ain't really doing anything for you. Majority of people taking supplements, you're harming yourself. If you feel like you're missing vitamins and need more, get it naturally, basically. Be aware what you put into yourself. Oh, no, Sellout, anything you wanted to add it on the health part? Did we go over the vitamin and the supplements? Or
Yeah, the whole supplement thing. People need to take heed of that, because, like I said, from being a personal trainer, that's all people want to know about is what supplements do you take? What supplements should I take? What should I do to increase this? Or like, you should literally be getting everything from nutrition, your food, not from pills in a bottle, not from liquids, not from drinks. We're not even supposed to have anything outside of teas and maybe cold pressed juices other than water. So buying some nutrition in a bottle, a shake, a post workout, this, or man, the article told you. I hope we can post that in the chat, because that's like one of the ones that should go everywhere. Yeah, that it tells you that it's harmful. Like, it could lead to death. Most of these, the increasing of these vitamins that you think you need. And most of the time, people buy this stuff without even asking their doctor. They just go off of, okay, my personal trainer said this, so I'm gonna go do it. Not even knowing that their personal trainer is not, that's outside of their scope of practice to recommend just to recommend any of that stuff. Even a meal plan. unless you're a nutritionist or a dietitian, you can't even do that as a personal trainer. So if y'all have a personal trainer trying to give you a meal plan and they don't have no credentials, you might want to take a couple steps back, turn around and run. But yeah, just get a dietitian or a nutritionist if you think that you need help with increasing vitamins and minerals in your body. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people search hashtags to find a diet. So y'all need to get serious. Stop playing around with social media and get serious about your nutrition. Or if you don't care, you don't have to do what I say. But yeah, start looking into what you're actually eating and where your food is coming from. Stop trying to shortcut to fitness or shortcut to health. There's no shortcuts. I mean, there are some shortcuts, but it's not like a shortcut. You know what I mean? You're not cheating. There's smarter ways to work than harder when it comes to nutrition and exercise. So just don't do the dangerous shortcuts is what I'm saying. Yeah, if we can post that article, y'all need to read that for yourselves and you'll gather, how heavy it is.
Yeah, I just posted it up in the chat.
Word.
Yeah,
send that to your loved ones because everybody eats food and everybody, mostly everybody is trying to be fit nowadays. So if you don't know what the hell you're doing, pardon my French or pardon my American, if you don't know what you're doing, ask somebody who has the credentials. Don't just jump out there asking somebody trying to do it the cheap way, trying to get free information. The information is out there. You got to read it. But go to somebody with some credentials if you're talking about adding supplements or something that you think you might need. If you ain't did no blood test or ran no test and know that you're deficient in something, then why are you supplementing? I yield the mic.
It's a good question. Also, too, the thing that I found interesting was that vitamin D. If you take vitamin D and you don't need it, it was known to cause cancer.
Yeah. Article states that. Yeah.
So, how much vitamin D are they putting in our foods?
And is it when you get let's get the fortified vitamin D milk, the fortified or cow's milk, the fortified with vitamin D, orange juice, all this stuff. It's not natural anyway. You're getting a serum of like, come on now.
Fortified with the fortified and some more fortified.
Right. And you're forcing that into your body. Whereas if you take in sunlight, your body already knows how to process it and in what quantities.
Bingo.
So your body controls its intake of it. Whereas if you ingest it through milk or through other products, you're forcing it into your bloodstream, and the stomach doesn't necessarily know how much of it to filter out, right?
Because you know what people got to remember too? I don't care how much of a vitamin or a protein you take in, your body is only going to absorb so much.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You could take 200% vitamin C. Your body probably only absorbing 40% because that's what your body type, that's all it needs. Everything else is damaging you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And your other organs got to process that stuff.
Right.
That extra.
And those organs have to process it. And if it gets, if it doesn't filter out of you, and it gets stuck in there and you have these surplus amounts, that's where things start to go off, and that's where you start to feel lethargic or feel bad or start to gain weight or whatever have you. You have that imbalance in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Overdo it. That's like people who are highly active, but you're overtaking B12 and all these uppers, vitamins and stuff to keep you moving. All you're doing is just speeding your heart up a lot faster for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. Our ancestors were healthy and lived a lot longer lives before they had any processed supplements. They wasn't walking out in the woods digging up no calcium tablets.
Not at all.
That's right.
Not at all.
So obviously, if they were getting it in nature, we can get it from nature. That's why I say
Facts.
we have to be willing to give up some of these so-called luxuries because these so-called luxuries is killing us.
It's killing you. I don't know
Right.
if you want to die. If you want to die, I mean,
Oh,
don't
go
give it up.
ahead.
But we got all these facts of things that are killing your mothers, your fathers, your sisters and brothers, and you still continue to follow right in their footsteps with it. After the facts are there, I mean the facts are there. Some of it's hidden, but just take heed to some of these things. This is if you want to stay alive. I'm sorry. I apologize if I
Yeah,
offend you
and
if you don't want to.
some of it be the main news,
Say that again. Say that
be
again,
the
Danny.
cover story of the news, and people
Oh
still
yeah, exactly. Right in your face.
just the cover story of the news, and people still. Man, listen, mm-mm. Want pharmaceutical me to death.
Not at all. No. Because that's
You know,
exactly what it
so
is to death. That's
yeah,
some some more of that population control. But they'll take
mm,
this because I
That's
said so.
right. And when you break all these pharmaceuticals down, people have to understand that the base of these pills and these serums and all of these things that people are getting, the base of these things are natural things you find in the earth. How many liver pills have been created from dandelions, from just ground down and processed uh, dandelions,
Hmm.
which naturally come out of the ground, and people see them as weeds, so they want to get rid of them. But that's
Yep,
stuff that you
mm-hmm.
can you can turn into a tea and naturally helps your liver,
bro.
right?
And
Mm.
it's
So if
better
that,
for natural form. Yeah.
Well, you got,
right,
but see, you just touched on something, Copy Indio. In order for a company to patent a product, right, it can't just be ground up dandelion because
right,
you can't patent nature. So you have to put a concoction on top of what's natural so that you can copyright it. And now you own it. And now you brand it. And now you can sue if somebody uses your ingredient.
right. Because at that point, that allows you to make a claim that it does this what the base product does and more because you got something else in it, even if that claim is overstated or in some cases even patently false. As long as you make a claim to something else being there, that you can copyright, and so that product you can, by proxy, you can copyright and you can monetize. And that's where we get into like the stuff Monsanto is doing, where they're essentially trying to copyright genetics and life, but going about it in a way that's kind of like a roundabout, like they're kind of skirting saying that's what they're doing, but in practice that's actually what they're doing. They're modifying it. They're taking genetics of natural things, plants, crops, and they're modifying the genetics of said seeds, for instance. And they patent that modification of it, because you can't patent the seed itself. You patent the modifications you make to it, and then they make it so prevalent, and they allow it to go and spread wide, to spread out uh, in the wild, and so you have natural crops that intermix with this stuff, and anything that's intermixed that's being sold that they're not getting a part of, they go and sue those farmers because somehow their crops got cross pollinated. Well, you can't control that unless you have your farm in a dome and it doesn't get in the air from anywhere else. You can't control what plants cross pollinate, and that's how they've been able to lay claim to all of these farmers' profits, and that's how they've been able to essentially, mess up large supplies of food for the population.
Mm-hmm. Just saddening. That's why I'm gonna say it again. We need to start back to producing for ourselves.
That's right. And it when we start looking at our genealogy, uh, like y'all said earlier, we get we go back a generation, two, three generations, and we start seeing that our people were around for 80, 90, close to 100 years. And this is when they told us the average life expectancy of an American was 50 to 70 years.
Mm-hmm.
They not talking about us, they talking about them.
Yeah, we just read a story about our Aboriginal couple yesterday rising. What, he's 103, she's 100.
So you look at that. Look at that. These people grew up at a time before we had all this genetically modified garbage and processed garbage that everybody's eating now. Before that many of us were herded into cities and having to eat food that they didn't grow themselves. So
Mm-hmm.
when you look at that, that's how these people were able to live so long. And if we don't understand that, we're gonna find ourselves passing away at like 30 to 40. Before our lives are even halfway over, we done because we eating a whole bunch of mess we shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's why it's important to understand the genealogy, who we are, what our makeup is. And when y'all get a chance, go do some research and find out how shortly after the census was started in 1790 did they open the patent office. The patent office was open in 1790.
Yep. And what was they patenting?
They were patenting
Right.
everything that we had created, but they took credit for it
Bingo.
That's
because
right.
they were dropping like hundreds of patents by 1795. They had literally thousands of patents. Now you can't tell me that they had been creating all this stuff during that time.
In
While,
5
while
years, man.
yeah, while
5
all these wars supposed to be going on and stuff. Come on, man,
Yeah,
stop.
1790. They fighting all these people, fighting with us. Uh Matter of fact, at 1790, how many colonies? It wasn't even 13 colonies in 1790 because they didn't get Georgia into the 1800s. So they were still coming over here forming colonies still, and they supposedly had the ingenuity to come up with all this stuff in 5 years. Whoo, that's a good one.
That's nonsense.
So which goes back to what I said, which goes back to what I originally said, and what our ancestors always know. They've been studying us. Because why would you create a patent office if you hadn't already seen things that our ancestors had created, and because our ancestors didn't own anything, again, that goes back to what we always talk about. If you don't own anything, then you can't. No one can control. You can't control what's going on, and can't nobody control you.
Facts.
So if we didn't own anything, but we were thriving because we didn't place ownership on anything and we shared everything, and we were operating in concert and operating in partnerships, then how is it that you have people come over to this land, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the first things they do after the census, excuse me, after they create the census so they can categorize you, one of the first industries that they throw up is a patent office. And then all of a sudden all these patents are coming out.
Hmm. Something to really think about.
So for those who talk about commerce and those that are staunch, what's the best way to put this? That are I'll put it this way, anti-United States corporation. I understand what you're saying, and I get it. But what I need y'all to do is do some research, do some real research, and realize that if you step out of this system, you are declaring yourself an immigrant.
Yes.
I'm gonna say it again. If you step outside this system, you are declaring yourself an immigrant. And if anybody's been keeping up with what happened, one of the first rules and laws that Trump passed was dealing with immigration.
They
You
rescinded DACA.
you will be deported.
And just the
You
states real quick. I ain't mean to cut you off.
No,
Sorry.
go ahead. No, you good.
Just to state what it means real quick, DACA is the act that states that all children of illegal immigrants can and will be deported. So now you have to ask yourself, you step outside of the system, what are you claiming to be now? Because to step outside of the system, that means you're turning your back on your ancestors on this land. You saying you're a foreigner. I mean, think. They don't have these laws and stuff that they passed almost 10 years ago for no reason. So please do, just follow through, do due diligence, and just research, understand law, understand business, learn how this operates, learn how to maneuver in the system. That's your greatest advantage there. Because they changed the rules because they're afraid of us competing. So now let's learn the rules to the game and let's show them what they're afraid of. Us taking our system back and getting right back to where we need to be. Getting back to business while our ancestors left it off.
So our ancestors are very important. Once you get to finding out who you are, you will have questions answered that you didn't even know to ask, and things will make a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think it is so imperative that they continue to change our racial and ethnic description? And no other people on no other planet, on no other continent, has had their ethnic description changed without changing the name of the continent that they were on, or the changing the name of the city or the country that they were on. That's only happened to us.
Mm-hmm.
The question is why?
Ask the right questions, the tough questions. Address the elephant in the room. Why?
Because can't nobody tell me that I'm from Africa or from Europe or from Spain when the census records and my own family members tell me that I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, and even if that were true, and because there are some people that were brought here from Africa,
Yes.
they're listed and labeled as coming from Africa and
Yep.
a city or a country in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
They're Africans. So if they're Africans, then there must be a distinction between the African and the mulatto, the African and the Negro, the African and the Black, the African and the African American.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, what's the difference?
Because plainly they showing you that they look at it differently. The records show you we are not the same. They do not even qualify or label us the same. Never have they in history. Because I was doing something fun. Let's see if I can get it to do it real quick for everybody. What is an African American?
Of African American, a Black American.
Never have they in history. I'm gonna do that one more time because it killed me when I did it the other day. What is an African American?
Here's the definition of African American, a Black American.
Wow. That's all you get.
That's all I got.
And then they're like, it's just like hung in the air like what?
Yeah. I thought something was wrong with my device, y'all. I'm not even playing. I thought something was wrong with my device. I looked at it. I was like, okay, let me press it again. Black American. For real? And then I even tried this one with it. How many African Americans got sent to America? Absolutely nothing. Okay, let's try this one real quick. How many Africans got sent to America? Okay, still blank. All right. How many? When was the first time Africans came to America? When was the first time Africans came to America?
1619. According to Wikipedia, the first recorded Africans in British North America were 20 and odd Negroes who came to Jamestown, Virginia via Cape Comfort in August 1619 as indentured servants.
All right, let's try this. When was the second time Africans got sent to America? And there we have it. I don't know. I think my phone broken, y'all. Maybe I'm asking the wrong question. I don't know. This ain't interesting. I just wanted to redo because y'all remind me of. I'm like, wow, okay. I'm confused. The phone confused. Well, any closing remarks on today's topic from today's Rising Show?
Do your genealogy. Find out who your people are. It'll help you understand what supplements you're supposed to be getting from the foods that you're supposed to be getting it from based off of where your people are from, because that's where your genetic makeup comes from. You're autochthonous, which means you come from the land. So if you come from the land, that means everything that you need is in the land that you came from. And I know that for people that live in Georgia, especially in Valdosta, that red soil, that red clay, isn't that where they get a lot of our aspirin from?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're from that red clay, that soil and the food that grows in it would be beneficial to you. If you're not, then that soil would not be beneficial to you. So know who you are and know where your tribe is from, and that will answer a lot of questions to solve a lot of problems for you and your lineage. And I dropped the mic, relinquished the mic. Excuse me.
Any closing statements for you, Copper Indio?
What teammate said is absolute facts. The key is tying yourself to the land, because the land is not only what ties you here politically, not only what ties you here socially, it's also part of your well-being, your health and well-being. We have a great work ahead of us, that's still ahead of us, and not only tying to our land, but also making sure, like Ron said, that we begin taking our system back, taking our job market back, our neighborhoods back, taking all of this stuff back. And another thing I wanted to touch on with the genealogy and the genetics, these companies that seem to have come out of nowhere, that are getting our DNA for these tests, will not tell you what they are doing with it. And I know right now when you go to the doctor and you give them a blood sample or whatever have you, you may not know exactly where that blood's going to end up, but you definitely do not know where this DNA stuff is ending up, because these are not physicians that are taking the most unique thing about you as an individual. So be careful as you talk to family and relatives about this DNA stuff, because a lot of people don't know about it. A lot of people are willing to do that to shortcut, like we were talking about earlier, with the shortcuts to fitness. Same with the shortcut to your ancestry. You got to do the work. There's no way around it. Last thing is, I this past weekend I took a drive up to Jamestown Island, because most of that landmass that they landed on was an isthmus, and a storm hit, and it knocked out part of the land that was connecting it to that area, and it became an island for a while. And I drove around and looked at the wildlife and looked on the beach, and beautiful. It's a very beautiful place, and they got signs up, and they talk about the history of the colony and the settlement and everything there. There's a I guess a replica Powhatan village that was kind of put together from remnants that were left, and there is a rebuilt part of what was supposed to be the colony. And they talk about that 1619 year, and they talk about the slaves, and they're they're guessing. They changed the language, like Dane Calloway put in one of his videos. They changed the language from Negro 20 odd Negroes to 20 odd Africans, and they're only going on estimations. As a matter of fact, that number of so-called Africans was only a small part of a larger group of indentures, and they don't say where those other indentures came from, whether they came from Europe or whether they were indigenous people here. So there's a lot of wordplay going on to give you that 1619 number, and also that account of the first so-called Africans that came here. So be mindful of that when you go to a museum or you go to one of these historical sites. Pay attention to the wordplay and ask questions. Now you the mic on that.
Good points. Good points. Uh, Closing statements and remarks from you, No Sellout.
Yep. I'm posting that link again. I'm just gonna overdo it. Uh, uh, people read the article, or if you one of the 140 characters and you good, just read the first 4 bullet points, 3 bullet points under the picture of that article. I just posted it again. Muy importante.
All right, all right. For me, I follow up what everybody else has said prior. I mean, do your genealogy, find out who you are, tie back into your tribe. Also, at the same time, do your due diligence and as much research that you can do for yourself. Start taking the time out to learn how things work. Let's stop being afraid of the boogeyman. This is our ancestor system. The days of us fearing the unknown is over. If our ancestors made it in this system, so shall us. The day that we pick up our ancestor system and keep it moving forward. And on that remark right there, I'd like to say it's been another great Grand Rising show. Look forward to seeing all the relatives tomorrow. Peace.
Peace.
Peace, y'all.